For centuries, we've been told what is pure and what is sinful, what is allowed and what is forbidden. Somewhere along the way, we severed the human from the divine. We silenced intuition, shamed the sacred, and buried ancient wisdom. But here, we remember. Welcome to the Forbidden Fruit Podcast, an exploration of the mystical, the intuitive, the cosmic forces that weave our existence. This is a soulful sanctuary where we embrace the strange and unusual and use it as fuel to reclaim the magic, restore the sacred, and discover ultimate truth. We are luminous, multidimensional beings woven into the vast tapestry of creation. And now, more than ever, we are being called to awaken. For the rebels, wayshowers, and leaders of rising consciousness, this is a space to expand your higher purpose. To the seekers, sensitives, and lovers, this is your sanctuary. Come and share your stories in a space where fierce hearts and fantastical gifts are not only welcomed, but needed. So take a bite. Now is the time to step into your full human potential and embody the divine that you are. You were never meant to be forbidden. Welcome. This is the Forbidden Fruit Podcast. I am Jeanette St.Germain.
And I am Catherine Kells.
And we are your hosts for an amazing conversation where we step into a place of evolving consciousness. We are here to explore the forbidden fruit, where we restore the sacred to the mundane, the profane, the unusual, the strange. We are so excited to share with you a myriad of topics and conversations that help to restore what is true and pure, clearing distractions and distortions in society, in what it means to be human, in the nature of the soul, and all kinds of other things. So, Catherine, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
So I am a family ancestral guide, and I help moms in particular to clear themselves and come back to their own center and really redefine what it means to be a mom and what it means to move forward in their evolution of who they are. I've got a micro farm and an emphasis on sustainability with lots of fun animals and interesting things.
You know what, Catherine, thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm excited to go down these rabbit holes with you and just share our different experiences and perspectives and hopefully bring on some additional guests as we go through our journey. But for today, we're just introducing ourselves and what we're doing here. I am Jeanette St.Germain, and I am the founder of Radiant Soul Center in Tempe, Arizona. I am a spiritual mentor, a frequency catalyst, and a sacred ceremonialist. I have been going through multidimensional spaces and going down all kinds of rabbit holes since I was a child with ultra sensitivity and intuitive abilities that were very hard to navigate or make sense of in the physical world. So I have built a business and a life around exploring the sacred mysteries of the universe and diving into the places of the seen and the unseen. And I have found that there are so many magical, beautiful things that we get to experience as human beings, and we forget that. We forget that when we get wrapped up in survival or all the obligations and responsibilities that our everyday lives put upon us or that we choose to take upon us. And so we wanted to come together and have some discussions about the strange and the unusual, the sacred, and all the things in between.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So as we were talking about some of these topics that we want to dive into in our different episodes, one of the questions that was on both our minds was, what is sacred and what is profane? And why do we even have these definitions, right? So what was your take on that, Catherine? What do you think is profane and what do you think is sacred?
Well, I think so. Society tells us that certain things are acceptable or not acceptable. They tell us what, as a collective, what the judgment is of a specific subject. And it doesn't even, It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's religion or you're talking about your body or what you want to do with your body, how you're
Mm.
supposed to feel. Society tells you that it has to be a certain way. And if you deviate from that way, then there's a judgment associated with that, whether you're wrong or it's inappropriate or it's not okay. Just like, or that's sin, or whatever you want to call it. But when you look at that, all of that is giving away your power because you are then looking outside of yourself to understand how you feel. When in reality, moving forward with our consciousness and evolving from where we've been in this patriarchal society, which is they tell you how to feel and they tell you what is acceptable, moving outside of that and going and looking within yourself and deciding what's your truth. How do you relate to each and every one of the different topics that comes up in your life? How you feel about an interaction you had, how you feel about the way that someone said something to you, or how you view yourself, like how are you showing up for other people? Like each of those different places, you're putting your energy, which is giving your power away. When in reality, what you need to do is you look at yourself and you say, how can I be authentic without first knowing who I am, knowing what I want, what I'm comfortable with, what I like or don't like. And there's no judgment that says, oh, that's good, or you can't possibly. Like, you have to stay away
Mm.
from those things because it's profane or wrong or whatever. It's all, you have to really come clean with yourself and know how you feel. Because if you can't trust yourself, how can you put your faith and your trust in something else?
Mm. Yeah, that's so good. 100% agree. Yeah. So it really starts with the question. It starts with an internal dialogue that we can each have with ourselves. Whenever something comes up in our lives, how do I feel about this? How do I feel about this? Or how am I thinking about this? Just asking some simple questions about our own perspective. And then being able to take a step back and look at those different perspectives, right? I don't know about you, but for me, my brain feels like it can go in 10 different directions, thinking about 10,000 different things all at once. So it is like this kaleidoscope or stained glass window where I've got all these bits and pieces and parts, and my consciousness is always seeking to create bridges, create ways that these seemingly just separate parts can come together. And in order to bring them together, I have to step forward in my awareness with either a definition of something, a judgment of something, a discernment around something. And all of those ideas and details get informed by how I feel and the
Mm-hmm.
thoughts that might be running in the background of my mind that I might not even be aware of. Is through the eye of the beholder, right? Your truth is different than my truth. But if we can bring our truths together in the same space, we get to create something new. So, this idea of the sacred and the profane, I mean, to me, everything is sacred. Everything. In the work that I do, where I meditate or do energy work or sound healing, um, help people develop their intuitive abilities, work with leaders of rising consciousness to help create a better world for us all. Every single one of these avenues, I am constantly being shown my own version of reality through the lens of another, through their actions, their belief systems, their energy, and then how I receive or push away or resist, right? So always playing in that field of, do I like this? Is this in resonance? If I don't like this, why? What is this activation in my system? What is this trigger, right? Asking questions. So the first step of even defining what is sacred and what is profane and what is the truth in that, the first step is, like you said, like being able to ask those questions and become aware. Just become aware of our own inner landscape, our own reality, our own stories. And, I think if people, like if everyone on the planet could just become conscious of their own thoughts, I mean, we would have world peace,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well, and yes, absolutely.
So we're
So,
not just talking about like Let's evolve consciousness because it's fun. Let's evolve consciousness because it's something to do. We're talking about evolving consciousness and questioning reality because we are tasked with leaving something better to our descendants than what has come before, right? So to
And
me,
because
it's like
and
this
because
huge
we
thing.
see because we see that the way that the world is functioning and operating right now isn't working.
Yeah.
There's critical malfunction happening on like so many different levels. And
Malfunction, dysfunction.
yes,
Yeah.
like I'm pretty sure everybody can say that the world is filled with problems. And
Totally.
so the way that we've been doing things doesn't work. Like that, like we've tried every possible scenario except for where we're headed right now. And that to me is like the coolest possibly potential. So the way that I look at like you have this beautiful, eloquent way of saying everything and putting it all really nice. The way I look at it is as our brain tries to identify and label things, like that's such a human thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a protective mechanism. It's a way that your brain understands
Mm-hmm.
things. But
Yeah.
where we're going is not brain oriented. It's not first coming with your head. It's actually starting with your heart. So when your brain is trying to interpret and understand, there's misinterpretation that happens. Because
Mm-hmm.
what's happening is your heart is feeling these emotions and it's
Mm-hmm.
having these experiences, these triggers and activations to whatever the stimulus is around you, whether it's, you know, an interaction you have with a person or a response that's a memory, brings up a memory of something that's happened in your life or anywhere along those lines. If you know that feeling within you, that's your opportunity. And so
Mm-hmm.
many people run from that or they pass judgment with their brain. That's not what we need right now, because what we need is actually come back to your heart. You need to feel that feeling and that
Yeah.
emotion and experience it, because if you can't work through that, it's going to keep coming up time after time after time, because that's the pattern of life. Like whatever is coming up for you in a given moment, that's the lesson that you're ready to learn. That's the next checkbox that you've got in this life, in the plan that you came here to have. All of these different lessons to go through. Until you learn one, you cannot move forward. You cannot expand and become more of who you are and step into the fullness and the oneness of your entire being if you're sitting here playing it small.
Yeah.
And the universe will give you time after time and opportunity after opportunity to play it out and to integrate those feelings, those thoughts, and emotions that you're having. Because once you do that, you're calling back your energy. You're getting really, really so incredibly authentic with yourself. And there's no right or wrong. Like what's right for me is not what's right for you. It's not right for anyone else. And that's the beauty of it, because we are all individual facets of creation that as a whole make up the tapestry of life.
Yes. It's like that
Yeah.
Rumi quote. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean contained in a drop. That really speaks to me and speaks to what you're talking about, right? We have these individual expressions of who we are, and that's beautiful. It's necessary. And then we also have this oneness that we're all a part of, right? This collective of humanity, this collective of the cosmos, you know, planet Earth is just one planet in the solar system that we're in currently from our human perspective. And at the same time, you know, every ant, every blade of grass, every cloud in the sky is required to create the experience and the expression of earth and nature and life, right? So it's interesting as we play in that place of like, we're individuals and yet we're part of this bigger thing. The question then for me becomes, what's the purpose of life? Right? We have all these questionings and these ways of trying to define and identify, which are beautiful. They make sense for us, make sense of our lives. But I think it's all really there, not only as like you were mentioning, maybe a trauma response, like a way to feel safe by defining reality. But I think it's also tapping into our true nature as a human being, as humanity. We're all driven to have purpose. And so we ask these questions: who am I? What can I be? What can I create? So that we have purpose. And as we identify and define and experience, we have purpose. We're giving ourselves a purpose, a reason for being, right? Mm-hmm. So there's so many layers to all of that. And I know we're just kind of skimming the surface.
It's interesting to point out because like the old paradigm tells us that, okay, well, if this is who we are, then that role's taken. So then there's less space for others to have whatever it is. You know, it's like there isn't a finite pool of money, for example. Right. So if I have enough, that means you don't. Like, no. That's not at all that lack consciousness. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if you see someone standing in their power, someone that is showing up and, you know, you can see the passion in them, you can see that they are fulfilling their purpose, that has no reflection on you. That doesn't mean you can't be you. You can't be filled with excitement and passion in your life. They're actually completely separate, yet all it's at the same time completely the same. So when you see that, whatever that trigger is that you feel like you could, you know, you see somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, they must be rich. Their life must be perfect. They must be, whatever judgment you place on them, that has nothing to do with them. And it's not about their reality of the world, because they may not tell you what's going on in their life. Of course not, because, you know, that's not your relationship with them. But if you look at each and every single one of those things that are triggered within you, and you work on that, yep, that's how you find your purpose, and that's how you find who you are, and you get the opportunity to embody everything that you saw that was beautiful in that individual, for example, or you felt the envy or whatever. You have the potential to have for yourself and to be for yourself. But it doesn't come through a taking situation. It comes through an embodying. Like, you actually, if you thank them and just, you know, look at all of the things, like, you don't realize how much, you know, you see as someone who's a celebrity or whatever, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, everything's perfect. Well, you don't realize that it might have taken 20 years for them to get to that point. How much did they slave away for that? How hard was it? What did they have to give up for that? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. That really isn't the point. The point is that nobody's life is completely perfect. And if you try to mimic yours based off of theirs, it's not going to fulfill you.
Yeah.
And all of this is about focusing on you and focusing on what you want, what fuels your passions and what makes you feel whole and you feel complete, because it's not going to be the same for any other person.
Right.
And once you embrace that and you realize, okay, everybody's got their issues, everybody's got their patterns and addictions and whatever in their life, things they want to improve on, and that's okay. And you just realize, you're like, hey, I'm so glad they are who they are because they showed me this in me. And what a beautiful opportunity, a beautiful moment in time where I saw that reflection of myself in them, because that reflects my potential of who I can be. That remembrance of, it's not separation, it's not lack. We have it all. I mean, the funniest thing is, like, when you think about, you know, when people pray, they're praying to this separate entity most often and saying, okay, I want this, or I want you to do this for me, or whatever, is typically what most people do in the process of a prayer. And, you know, your creator's sitting there and like, really, we can do this for you, but are you really going to appreciate it and enjoy it? Because you've got everything you need, whether or not you see it. Like, you can say, oh, you know, I want to be more abundant, but are you really accepting and embodying the places in your life where you are abundant? It may not be in your bank account, but where in your life are you so filled with love and joy and compassion? Where do you have peace? Like, all of those things embody the definition of abundance.
Yeah, it goes back to those paradigms, right? Like what society has taught us or how we have been programmed to view reality. We view it as I am me and everything else is over here or outside of me. And what's occurring in my life is a response. Like it's my job to respond or react to what's happening. And for me, at least, in my experience, and one of the things I want to explore on this podcast, it's really that internal compass, that internal questioning, and also that internal space of taking back our power. So I love that you brought up prayer, because sometimes, you know, I'll even say this to clients, oh, I'll send some prayers your way, if I know they resonate with that framework of prayers. But what I'm really saying is, I will hold the vision of you being restored to your perfect health and wellness. I will hold the vision of you being abundantly wealthy and productive and successful and fully supported by your finances to go live your life the way you want. I will hold the vision. I will hold the energy. I will let it flow from me, through me, to me, in all of these different ways. And that to me is a prayer. It's not, hey, I'm going to ask for something like I'm ordering off the menu of the universe, right? Like that's only one part of the gig. The universe is our partner in creation, right? We are the universe. The universe is us. There is no separation in truth. But through our level of perception, we either understand that or we don't. And that's cool, whichever way we experience it. But when I go into the space of, okay, I am the universe and the universe is me, and where I focus my energy, that is where my energy will go. And that energy that is focused will then go to create the thing I'm focusing on. I'm feeling it inside of me already, right? So it sounds like some kind of magic technique, right? Oh, I want more joy. I'm going to feel joy. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to magnetize more joy as manifested in my life, in the physical, outside of me. And that's not how it works. When we can train ourselves, train our minds and our hearts and our spirits to be in full alignment in those bridge places, right? Creating those connections between all the pieces of the stained glass window of our perception of reality. We actually get to be joy. And then the joy that shows up in our external is a direct reflection of the joy that we are holding within us and that we are radiating out into the world. And that's the part that people miss, right? We have in society this idea of I'll just pop a pill and it's going to fix my imbalance, my dis-ease. Right? I'm out of ease, so I'm going to pop this pill, flip a light switch, now it's better. No.
And change nothing about any of the habits you have, any of patterns, nothing. And it's just going to cure everything.
Yeah.
That's
then
so
that's
funny.
just not how it works. That's not like the law. There are certain laws of the universe, certain laws of resonance and magnetism and balance and contrast. And all of these things are necessary for us to experience all of it, right? This great, grand potential that is constantly expressing itself. Everything is required for it to exist. So in order to change a situation, we have to be the thing. Be the change you want to see. It sounds simple, but it's difficult if you're in a really difficult place, right? If you're in a place of depression, anxiety, maybe you're struggling with complex PTSD, maybe you've never even felt what love actually feels like, and yet in your heart of hearts, you're seeking a loving, reciprocal, supportive relationship with a partner or with a lover. But if you've never experienced what love is in the external, it's much more difficult to recognize it when it shows up. Your system's not even wired to receive that code, right? That computer program. And so that's where we go into that place, bringing the wheel back around to what is sacred, what is profane, what are these ideas that we hold within ourselves, the inner work must occur for the outer external to change. That's really all we're trying to say here, and giving lots of little examples and tidbits along the way.
I want to give another example. So when
Yeah.
I work with moms, they're like, you know, it's classic every time. It's like my kid has this issue. And it doesn't matter the details of whatever it is because the theme is all like I like to look at the patterns. The theme is the same. It's they want their child who's just being a kid to behave differently. Well, it's isn't that like a dream, right?
Do what I want you to do exactly how I want you to do it.
Exactly. But that goes back to the do what I do, but not what I say.
Exactly.
Or I totally said that wrong. Scratch
yeah.
that. Do what I say, but not what I do. So if you, if you yourself, you know, if you say are trying to get your kid to be calm and get along with their sister, you know, have this happy relationship, but you're sitting there yelling at them and you're saying you have to do this now, cut it out, and or whatever. They're never going to learn that because they are such sponges, because their brain is developing and you are teaching them the codes of what it means to be human. So if you're sitting there doing something, they're picking up all the subliminal messages that you're giving them, whether or not you realize it. And they're learning this is how it's like to be human. So then they copy it. And then parents wonder, why the heck doesn't it work? So the answer isn't my kid's broken. It's not at all. They are perfect, divine little beings. What you have to look at is you have to shift within yourself. And it's again, take it one step back. It's not shifting the words, it's shifting inside yourself how you feel. Because the reflection of what's going on in your reality, in your world, whether it's on a collective level, in your family, in your work, any of the experiences you're having are because it's how you feel about yourself. So if you want to be happy, you got to feel joy. You got to find something within you that brings you joy. You got to remember what you're passionate about. You have to show up, take steps to do what brings you those feelings and those emotions. Because the more you focus on that, that will become your reality. And it does sound so simple, but it literally is. Like, that's how you remember it. And as you remember that, you're aligning your frequency to this higher elevated process that the universe then has to respond, because the universe it's all a mathematical equations. You know, the universal law says if you have this frequency, we will return you. We'll give you that. So it's almost like ordering off a menu, but it's getting the cheat sheet to figure out how to order off the menu by going and being the piece of the menu that you're asking for, being that frequency of abundance, and what does that feel like and how does that be, and then find ways to show up in your life in that way. And it's funny because you feel that separation within yourself of, oh, creator is over there. You know, I want to feel these things related to creator, and you have these certain beliefs and thought processes. But there's that point that you feel that unity within yourself, and you feel so aligned in who you are that all of a sudden you are manifesting differently. You are showing up differently in the world. People walk up to you and are like, wow, you look amazing. And you've done nothing different externally. Like, you know, you could be wearing your pajamas in bedhead. But people are like, wow, you are magnetic.
Yeah.
And they notice it. They may not be able to identify why, but they feel it because they pick up on energy. Everybody does. They just have their own way of explaining it.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that remembrance of how you are this divine spark of creator. You are that piece of creator. And when you realize, oh, you've had it all along. This is who you are. You're the one who, when you came here, you forgot who you were. You forgot that you were that piece of creation. So you have all of these abundance, all of these tools, all of these different feelings and emotions within you at any given point if you want it, and you forgot. And isn't it funny?
It's like some big cosmic joke. Yeah.
Yep.
I love how you said that parents are literally teaching their kids the codes of how to be human. And that's really profound, that statement, as a parent, and I know you're a parent, and even if you don't have kids, right? It's not about being a parent, it's about being a human. And to me, learning how to be human is actually remembering, all that remembering that you're talking about, remembering that we are divine. We are divinely human, right? So we're a part of creation physically and energetically and everything in between. And it's our role to remember that within ourselves so that we can then teach others. We can reflect to others, whether that other is a child, whether they're your own parent, whether they're a community that you're working with. It's all about the evolving of the consciousness through the remembering of our full potential. And our full potential is to be divinely human, right? To experience life through all of our senses, not just the five senses, right? We have more than five senses. We have our intuitive senses. We have our seeing, hearing, feeling, knowing, being through this liminal space of energy and connection and knowing and vibration. And that goes into that place of what you were saying at the end there. Everybody that's in this space of remembering who they are, you can see it, you can sense it. There's something in them that glows, right? Their eyes shine differently. There's a light in them. And it's so fascinating to know that we are on this edge as a humanity where everybody is waking up to the potential that they are. And that's really why we want to have these conversations and do this podcast, because we are at a point of evolution collectively, globally, that each of us remembering who we are and remembering our inner fire, tapping into the potential that is already hardwired within us, that is absolutely necessary for us to create a better world. And this idea of what is sacred and what is profane and playing the jumping jacks in the mind, right? That's just a question that we can use to evolve the consciousness, to tap deeper into the remembering, to embody the power to be who we are. So I think that we've touched on a lot of different spaces here. How to play with our mind construct, how to show up in our lives, within ourselves and in the external, how to create change by looking at the stuff within us that we're feeding into, right? So many different rabbit holes that we can go into. And we're getting close on time, so I just want to thank you for all of this profound wisdom that you have shared. And I'm so excited to see what other keys come out and what other doors get unlocked, because we're going to talk not only about the mindset and the perspective, but about some of our own personal experiences that are truly mind-blowing. I've had experiences with spirit since I was a small child, seeing otherworldly beings and feeling energies. I'd really love to go into this space of evolving consciousness around the individuality and the oneness, right? When I was a kid, I was always called to the one. And as I went into adolescence and early adulthood, I thought the one meant the perfect partner, the one ideal romantic lover match, right? And yet, that's not what it meant. It meant the one that we all are, right? So learning within myself how to navigate my individualized expression as I am part of the one. So I'd love to kind of play a little bit more in those fields and share some of the near-death experiences that we both have had, some of our psychedelic journeys where we have worked with plants as medicine in sacred spiritual ceremonies. I'd love to go into those places of exploring shamanic techniques and how to evolve consciousness and change our lives through all kinds of different lenses, from biofeedback to binaural beats, to energy, meditation, sound healing, all the different things. And really, as the title implies, nothing is forbidden. We want to go into that place where we talk about sex, religion, politics, energy, quantum physics, whatever it is. Whatever it is that needs to be explored so that we can evolve our consciousness and break free of some of these paradigms, systems, structures, programs that are holding us back from expressing our full potential. So, just thank you so much for doing this with me, Catherine. I love you.
Of
I love
course.
This. It's so fun.
And I wanted to add one
go
last thing. Like, we see you. We see where you are on this journey, because so many people on this planet at this time are still asleep. And we see how frustrating that is. And we see that everyone here is having this experience. And it's an individual experience, but it's a collective experience. Yeah. And when you first start to wake up from the slumber of who you've been earlier in your life, no judgment, just who you've been. And when you start to wake up, you have these different experiences that can only be defined as a spiritual experience. And then you start to realize that you're a human having an spiritual experience. But in reality, as that evolves and that grows within you, and as you become more because of that, you realize that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. And that's where we want to take you on this journey. And that's why we'd love for you to come back next time.
Yes. Thank you for saying that so beautifully. Yes. What is this awakening thing? What is this ascension thing? It's an evolving of consciousness. And in the spiritual community, I've seen people go very literal with this whole awakening to the truth and remembering that we're multidimensional beings. And they have these ideas that are similar to some of the religious paradigms that I've seen in my own childhood and that we see out in society, that there's an alien spaceship or there's this savior that's going to descend from the clouds and they're going to come and we're all going to be raptured. We're going to be brought up into the clouds and we're going to be saved and everyone else that's left is going to burn. And I just find that comical. And I know that that may be triggering to some people, some of our listeners, and cool, I'm here for it. But we are not going to be saved by anyone but ourselves, from my perspective. And this idea of awakening and ascension, it's an ascension of consciousness. It's an evolving of consciousness. It's not an actual literal ascension where we float up into the clouds and get to go into heaven before we're dead. Maybe that happens. I mean, anything is possible. I'm open to the possibilities of all kinds of magical, miraculous things. But I really believe the whole purpose of life is to be alive, is to be as divinely human as we can be. And it's not to escape some matrix. It's not to fight against some dark, faceless enemy. It's to bring consciousness to the enemy that we have within ourselves, to the things that we fear, and to restore love there. So, yes.
And remember the sacredness in every single moment.
Yes. It's a ceremony of life, right? Everything is sacred. Doing the dishes is sacred. Why? Because you have a body, because you have water running from a tap, because you can touch and feel and sense everything that's happening in that moment. That's being alive, right? That's sacred, at least from my perspective.
Every single moment.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for going down this rabbit hole with me.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, so good. All right, my dear.
Until next time.
If anyone wants to reach out to you and talk to you some more, or maybe find out how you can assist them with changing their mindset, helping some parents move through some of those really difficult times with children that maybe are struggling, right? I know that you and I have had lots of personal conversations, and you're amazing. You have a beautiful perspective and way of seeing things. So do you have an email or a website where people can reach out to you if they want to go further with
Yep.
you about what you offer?
Sure, you can reach at me at secondwindquantumhealing.com.
Secondwindquantumhealing.com.
Yep,
All right, and it's all spelled out the way it sounds?
it is.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if anyone would like to contact me, I am at JeanetteSt.Germain.com. And if you would like to be a guest on our podcast and dive into some of these topics with us, you're welcome to reach out to either one of us, and we will look at the schedule and see what we can put together. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.